search is a good example. Going back just 5 years ago, you had agencies where they're charging literally tens of thousands of pounds a month for the search, and they're the ones redirecting keywords. They're the ones that are kind of optimizing the search, the agency.
Yeah.
And now you've got AI, you've got machine learning, which is doing a lot of that for you. Or you're educating the client to the point where they can do it themselves. So what happens over time is the SaaS businesses start to take over, where people just pay a monthly subscription, and the tools are in their own hands to do it.
So today I have Rich Himsworth with me. Rich is the CEO and founder of Salesfire. Salesfire, if you don't know, is a great product. It's basically pop-ups, overlays, on-site marketing. How would you describe Salesfire, Rich?
Suite of CRO tools, basically.
Yeah.
So I guess everything we're doing is aiming towards, what it is we're trying to look at the major touch points on the site which influence the most revenue. It's almost like a bit of a cheat code, really, I guess, in terms of taking those over or hijacking them and then trying to get the most conversion out.
One of the products I always like on your site is the search functionality that you offer to e-commerce D2C brands. I know you've been working hard on developing that product and getting it into more retail. Isn't that a product now you're selling? Because I remember when it was is that a chargeable product now?
Yes, yeah. So we've got that. Essentially, we've got 5 chargeable products. And the idea is, originally, I guess the idea was that us being a little lowly company from Teesside, we shouldn't be able to compete with any of the big players.
Yeah.
So we thought instead of developing one product where we'd always be superseded by some company that's had,
being a feature. You don't want to be a feature, do you?
That's it. So we developed 5 products that would work together to generate something greater than the sum of the parts. What's happened though, for a variety of reasons, I think, is that they are certainly some of the products are best of breed now, and the others are on their way to that, which I didn't think when we started the company 5 years ago.
It's like
I didn't think that'd be possible.
Isn't it? Yeah.
I honestly didn't think that'd be possible. But I think it's the nature of a lot of businesses where they'll take on funding and it all goes into driving sales. Everything's driving sales instead of the product and innovation.
Yeah.
And we've heard of some of the rivals we come across. Naturally, you pick up bits of information about them. They haven't touched a line of code in 4 years.
Yeah, and
they haven't developed anything. So it's just a case of sell it into another country, that type of thing. They're not evolving.
Bums on seats, selling, cold emailing, cold calling, sales team.
But I guess what we're trying to do.
What happens when you get VC, isn't it?
Yeah, I think so. spin up offices in all the prime locations, kind of thing. But I guess what we've wanted to do, similar to yourselves, really, I guess, is just look at making the product as strong as possible.
Yeah,
and evolving it and taking the customers on the journey with us. Really, I think that's been quite important. But yeah, in terms of the search, it's a fun one, really, because you're developing it with certain constraints. So we're trying to make it so that you can deploy it very quickly. We appreciate that e-commerce retailers, they've got everything to do. They're the busiest people on earth. No one's sitting there twiddling their thumbs in that industry, especially with current climate. So we want tools where you switch them on and you're live within minutes. So it's trying to work to those constraints of having that philosophy in mind where you can be live very quickly, work into refining it later.
Yeah.
But get live, make it look good on site.
Yeah, I remember when you launched your minimum viable product and you showing it to me, and the speed of it was absolutely brilliant. And I was always concerned about, can you keep that speed up when you grow sites?
First iteration, the answer was no.
Right, okay. That was always my worry.
We giving you the inside track of what happens behind the scenes here, but going back years ago, we launched the search. I think we got it live on about 5 sites. Yeah. And it went from blisteringly fast to fast, and then fast to kind of worrying. It's a good job it was proof of concept at the time, but we were thinking, right, we can deploy. We had visions of deploying this on 1,000 sites by the end of the year, and that wasn't the case.
Yeah.
The first one did not scale too well, so we've.
So you're on version 2 of that now, or version 3?
Yeah, version 3 of it now. We're up to. But I think the philosophy behind the search has always been make it as fast as possible. It's what things, as consumers, what are we interested in? We want the fastest mobile phone. We want the fastest PC or whatever it is. We want the fastest car. So it's making the fastest search possible and making it look good. Like most searches that you see, I mean, you've got horses for courses, haven't you? But you'll go on Amazon, for example. It's not the sexiest search in the world.
No.
But they've got 11 million products on site.
Yeah.
So it's all very practical. Whereas with ours, we've tried to make it so you can shop with your eyes a lot more, I think.
Image led.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
So I think obviously that's the way it's going with, especially with D2C brands. It's all about the images. They're spending so much money on creating those images. They want them in the search.
Yeah.
And that makes massive sense. On search, when you say on your product in its entirety, on the product suite, what e-commerce ecosystems do you play in most? What is it? Shopify? Is it Visual? I know because obviously Salesfire was a really close partner of VisualSoft's.
Yeah.
Is it still VisualSoft mainly, or is it doing more?
The biggest platform we've got going is Shopify.
Yeah.
They are a monster out there, basically.
Yeah, of course they are. £1,000 gorilla.
So they're the biggest. They're also the fastest growing. I'd say the big one that's really making moves is BigCommerce. I think they're the ones where they're really going after the UK market, but they're being more surgical about it, I'd say. So they're just onboarding everything. They're kind of going after key wins.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. They're going for those key accounts. I remember when they targeted Ted Baker. Yeah. They've just won some other really key brands. And I think that's a good approach for them. I actually like BigCommerce. I think they're a good company. They've got good management structure.
Yeah.
And I think they treat their partners really well. I like Shopify, but I think Shopify can be a game system, especially with them buying up all these different apps in different sections and then promoting them and pushing those brands. It's
almost like being a partner with Google, isn't it? Because they're so big.
Yeah.
Whereas I think with the likes of BigCommerce, with VisualSoft, with yourselves, you can sit down and have a conversation.
Yeah.
You can talk about what you're doing, throw around ideas and
you can come out with actually a better solution for the client.
Yeah.
So, if BigCommerce say to you, right, we're doing Ted Baker's search, we need it to be like this.
Yeah.
You can work with that salesperson or that developer who's working on that on a one-on-one basis, and to win that account, you can do customization. And
that's it.
Same with reviews. We can go above and beyond what we give out the box.
Yeah, exactly.
So obviously we're coming towards the end of the year. We're in December now. What do you think is going to stay the same in 2023? What do you think it has happened in 2023 that we're going to carry through and see more of in 2023 that we saw in 2022?
I think we're going to see more of, unfortunately, retailers tightening the belts.
Yeah.
I think they're going to start questioning their outlays, basically. They're constantly going to be looking at the monthlies and looking at how they can stay in control of them. You're going to see more of the likes of your maids and people like that have unfortunately gone out of business. I'm kind of seeing this thing where I think a lot of companies, they've tried recovering from the pandemic. Thought I'd get through a whole podcast without mentioning the P word, but unfortunately not again. But you've got a lot of companies where they were trying to recover from that. Some of them getting kind of, almost bailouts and some assistance in places. And now with the recession, it's kind of come home to bite. So I think you're going to have a lot of companies where it's going to make or break over this Christmas period. Because it's kind of that golden quarter. So I'm afraid you're going to see a continuation of that. But in that lies opportunity, really.
Yeah.
Because if you look at, it's the SaaS businesses, like yourselves, like us, which you'd hope they'd win out overall. I think in certain, and you've probably seen this over the years, when a technology appears, it tends to be an agency that takes it to the forefront. It's very expensive. Everything's kind of agency-led, account managed, like the agency's doing. Take for example, search. Search is a good example. Going back just 5 years ago, you had agencies where they're charging literally tens of thousands of pounds a month for the search. And they're the ones redirecting keywords. They're the ones that are kind of optimizing the search, the agency.
Yeah.
And now you've got AI, you've got machine learning, which is doing a lot of that for you. Or you're educating the client to the point where they can do it themselves. So what happens over time is the SaaS businesses start to take over, where people just pay a monthly subscription, and the tools are in their own hands to do it.
Yeah.
And that's what we've seen with the overlays world, and you've seen with the search world. I think there'll be a continuation of that naturally, where customers that they are tightening the belt buckle, they'll be looking at more kind of cost-effective.
I totally agree with you. I think agencies that are doing all, that are doing everything for everyone sort of thing, I think they're really going to struggle. I think the specialist agencies will still do well. For me, I think that the changes that brands are going to have to get a control on spend. They're going to have to, in the new year, they're going to be looking at ad spends and ROIs.
They already are, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're already.
So how do you track ROI with your solution at the minute?
So where we stand, we're always open and honest with it. We're a company where we can assist. We can assist in generating a sale.
Right.
We're not that company where we turn around and say, we have generated you those sales.
Because there is some competitors of yours directly that say that sale came from
literally
me.
In their reports, they will turn around and say, you've spent £8,000 with us, we've generated you $250,000.
Yes, that's right.
But your sales have gone up by 20 grand.
But everybody is almost claiming that sale.
Exactly, yeah.
Klaviyo's claiming it on a abandonment call email. You've got Privy claiming it. You've got all of these brands claiming the sales. And I always wonder about how. I think you've got to try and show an ROI.
Yep.
But how do you do it? Obviously, truthfully, do you integrate? Have you looked at integrating with Triple Whale yet?
No.
They're a e-commerce analytics solution, but they might be good for you guys to.
That'd be cool.
Integrate with. Yeah, they're a really good brand.
What I've noticed is that they, I think, again, this has been changed in the last couple of years and will continue to in 2023. But this movement away from like a CPA. So what you're talking about there in terms of ROI and actually claiming the sale, you're very restricted in terms of what you can do with a lot of these kind of product suites that are based around CPA.
Yeah.
Because, looking back at the overlays world, for example, if you're on CPA and you're paying 5% of a sale to that supplier and you're doing an exit intent, you could say, you could claim that there's a certain percentage of people will not come back to the site. So if we can engage with them on exit, I can give them some kind of promotion, get them to continue the customer journey and purchase, and you pay a percentage. But there's so many subtleties along the way. There's so many nice ways that you could engage with the customer. Just saying things like, for example, communicating that there's low stock or of an item, so hurry and purchase, free delivery over a certain amount. You don't want to be paying CPA on that.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense.
Yeah,
and that's where I think a lot of these product suites are kind of they struggle to get long-term traction with a customer because they're always using it sparingly because they've got one eye on what the monthly bill's going to be.
Yeah, and I was talking to somebody the other day about like their bills, and they were an e-commerce brand, pretty big, and he goes, Callum, they were spending $10,000 a month with MailChimp for their email list.
Goodness me.
Right? And I'm like, what do you mean? How many emails are you sending?
1 billion.
Yeah, and it wasn't. It was a lot, but not massive. I've seen bigger lists, and I was like, you've got to get those emails out of there, and you've got to go and look and find different solutions. Yeah, they found a solution pretty much. I think they moved actually to either Klaviyo or OmniSend, and they saved like nearly $9,000 a month. Just by looking and whittling down their list. They were leaving everybody in. People they were segmenting off and they weren't sending them to were staying in MailChimp, and MailChimp charges you per record. Yeah. And they were getting charged percents. But I think you're going to see a lot more of that. I think that looking at your account. I mean, we're seeing it with the reviews. We actively ring our clients up and say, you've got this feature you're not using. Yeah. Either use it or drop down to the lower tier. Yeah. And I think by being proactive about that, you can actually build a better, longer term relationship. So talking about going forward, 2023, 2024, how do you see the landscape changing in your space and in the wider e-commerce landscape?
In terms of how it's going to change, I think a lot of the agencies, right across the board, there's less money going in the top of the hopper, I guess. I think we've both been lucky as companies in that we've managed to get funding or acquisitions or over the line. Probably acquisitions or funding that's been negotiated, like say, up to a year ago.
Yeah,
we're in the we're in a similar boat. We raised $2 million just 2 months ago. I think there's less people fundraising. So I think
less brands announcing that they're raising money.
That's
going
it.
Forward.
So I think off the back of it, you're probably going to see money spent less frivolously. You're going to see. I think you're going to see a lot more of that where companies are going to be appreciating the customer a lot more. Like you say there, like ringing a customer and taking the time to make sure they're using the product suite accordingly and properly. Whereas before, I think it's a case of a lot of these companies that are funded, like VC funded,
get the next customer, get the next
one through the door, and they're just like churn's just a stat. You know, it's just a stat that they worry about later at some point.
Yeah, I think you see that definitely.
I think that's what's. I think that's how we're going to see the industry. Everyone's just going to be a lot more.
Have you had a chance to play with the AI stuff, the Chat GPT-3 and all of those things? These like not chatbots. It is a chatbot, but it's more of like an AI thing where you're giving it. You ask it a question and it'll give you a full answer, or you say write a description for this.
I've seen little demos of it. And they are, you dig into tech a lot more than me with these things, but I always see the demos and think, I'm always cynical because I always look and go, I bet it couldn't do this and I bet it couldn't do that. But they're moving on, aren't they?
I think brands have got to adopt this a lot more in 2023, 2024 and going forward, simply because they're probably paying a copywriter now to write descriptions for all of their products.
Yeah.
Unique descriptions, whereas they can use GPT-3 to, put in what it is and give me a description for this iPhone case made out of this, and it will simply write you a description for the site. So I think there's going to be a lot more of that.
I'm going to see the rise of those affiliate sites again. You remember the ones where it's a case of take the Wikipedia description, put that against the product listing, and then send all the traffic to eBay like that.
I think you're going to
rise of those again.
I think, talking about affiliates, I actually think affiliate stuff is going to come back in 2023 as an acquisition model. Affiliate as an acquisition model has been like affiliate's a dirty word almost in the industry, isn't it? Because there's so much fraud. But actually, I see solutions like Social Snowball, which is an affiliate solution that turns past customers into affiliates. And there's a couple of solutions like this out there in a minute. And I think that is going to be a channel that grows quite bigly. Bigly, that's terrible. What is it? Over time, it's going to expand.
Yeah.
What I see, they're going to change the name because affiliate is got such bad connotations in the industry. I think it'll be influencers or something like this, but it's going to be turning
influencers. That's the hot term, right?
Normal customers. Really? It's going to be turning normal customers into revenue drivers. Share this link, and we will pay you 5%. And I'm sure there's going to be some abuse of that. I did see some other solutions, membership solutions. So giving, so where there's Inviterate, the solution's called. And what they're doing is basically giving brands the ability to run like an Amazon Prime. So it's like a membership scheme. You pay £29 and you probably get free delivery for the year and 10% off everything you buy.
Yeah.
I do see the rise of solutions like that.
Again, if you noticed, it's more to do with looking after that customer. Where we're talking about our business and looking after existing customers, It's the same with the retailers, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's
definitely.
mirrored there, so it's getting the most out of that customer base, I think.
Yeah, and I think that'll be the trend going forward. I think that will be one of the key trends going forward.
Well, acquisition, it's got to be worth it in terms of paying for the acquisition, because I think, I don't want to say people have been lazy, but it's been a case of spend this much on paid search, drive traffic in, try and make a sale.
Yeah,
and there's no thought to the cycles, the repeat orders and things like that. There's been less thought of that.
There's a thing I show people all the time, which is the HubSpot flywheel, which is basically, you're really trying, you're not just using like a funnel and kicking them out the bottom of the funnel once they've paid. It's really getting them in the flywheel and keeping and spinning
we're in
this
the middle of
flywheel
that.
fast.
We're in the middle of that HubSpot flywheel.
Yeah, have you seen it? Have you seen that?
I think I've seen you share it before.
Yeah, I have shared it a few times on LinkedIn and on Twitter. Talking about your acquisition, how's things now? Now you've come through it. How was the process?
Good. It's been good, because I think when you put your heart and soul into something for 5 years, you don't want to relinquish any kind of power or control over what you've created. You're essentially, again, there's so many ways that the companies are mirrored in this sense. You've created your dream scenario. You've created a sales process that's exactly how you want it. You've created a product where you've literally sat over there. I'm sure you've done this as well. Sat over the designer's shoulder and gone, let's try it like this, and let's bring new ideas in every day. So you always find it difficult kind of relinquishing any of that control. And we spoke to a lot of people. We started the process, I think it was October last year. So that's 14 months ago. We started pulling everything together for it. And we ended up with kind of a fairly local funder. Yeah. One that admittedly it was off a relationship that I got from previous. So I'd known or at least the group of people that we were dealing with. Yeah. I'd known them from 7 or 8 years previous.
Yeah. So you had that relationship.
You had that kind of confidence. You had that confidence there. But going into it, we stopped started a few times, but we got to the point where we felt it was right. We felt it was right for the company in terms of we're kind of heading into what was even a few months ago very obviously a recession that we're heading into. And it's a case of with a few million behind us, we can do it.
So what are you going to do with the money?
Do a lot.
What's the plan with the money? Is it just to wait and see, or is it you've started pouring petrol on the fire and you're hiring and?
Well, we're a company that started with about, I think, with a 20K loan. Right. And we've done very little else in terms of fundraising ever since. Yeah. So we're naturally we make money last, I think, which is nice, which is good for a funder to hear. I think the guys at Mercy would be happy to hear that. But I think what we're doing is we're basically getting all of our ducks in a row for January. So all these ideas and things, we've been naturally building them up. Yeah. But come January, it's a case of we've had this almost like this 3-month sprint of getting every member of staff working towards some pretty
serious goals.
Serious goals and some tight deadlines, really. Yeah. Which will hopefully culminate in and around the Christmas party. We hope everything complete. But then, so January, we're really looking at doing things aggressively in terms of growth, but also rolling out a lot of new tech.
Right. So yeah, I think. So is that would you say that was basically your Series A, or would you say that's seed?
I'd say it was. Depends how you define it. I've always considered it a Series A, just because we're turning over. We're quite well established in terms of turnover. Yeah. So
what you're going to have to look at then, this time next year, you're going to be looking at going out and raising Series B at a much bigger valuation.
Not again.
Yeah. Once you get on that treadmill, Rich, you have to stay on it. You're on it now. You have to go 5x of your last raise to keep going. You have to grow up fast, don't you?
That's it. Yeah, absolutely. Because it's serious.
See, I was never ready to do that. I was never ready to do the growing up bit. I was, with reviews, I was just like, no, I'll do it. Every time we looked at raising money, the people, when we went out, me and Nikki went out to Silicon Valley a few times to try and raise, and that was years ago, but we found it very difficult. One, because of my accent and being from the UK, and two, we was husband and wife founders, and they were like, no, we don't.
Is that a big no, is it?
It was, and now it's not. Actually, now it's kind of changed around a little bit. Husband and wife founders, there's been a few of them now, and they've had really good exits. So, and yeah, we've had a good exit. You know, we just got acquired. So I think husband and wife founders are looked on very differently to how they were 6 or so years ago. Whenever I looked at VC, I just found it, maybe it was just me, I just found it, I can't schmooze. I struggle with that.
Yeah.
I struggle with having these conversations. I can talk to our customers really well because they're looking for a solution. I can work with them, but I really struggle with the schmoozing part of it, the handshakes and
I see. Yeah, I do see what you. I mean, almost traditionally or naturally, I'd sit within that product. My background's all sales. It's all sales, but it's product. Where I'm happiest is sitting in with they hate me doing this, but sitting in with the designers.
Yeah.
And sitting in, throwing ideas and looking at designs.
Yeah.
Because I'm not a coder, because I'm not a developer, and I can't read what's on the screen and interpret it.
Yeah.
You know, I'm working off visuals basically.
Yeah. What's coming out the other end?
That's it.
Yeah.
So that's what's exciting to me. So to then be going and working in it's basically like the financial sector you're getting into.
That's it.
It's
you're working
it's a
off
very
spreadsheets.
it's a very different world, isn't it?
Yeah, I just didn't like it, and I had a natural fear of people who work in the financial environment anyway. So I was like, I'm terrified of you lot. I'm staying away. I'm going to run my own course. But
that's where taking your time's come handy, isn't it? That's where it's been useful. And again, with us, it was looking at the right company that's going to be there and support us.
So, what do you think's next for Salesfire? What's things? Can you give us any insights into products coming out? Possible.
So, one of the main things that we're looking at doing in January is, or launching in January, is we've had Trend Desk, which has been.
I love Trend Desk. I absolutely love it. I absolutely love it when you share those graphs on.
So it was brought about through. It was around about lockdown time. Yeah. Again, I've said it again, but it was around that time when it was shameful to try and sell anything. Everything was about just everyone lending a hand. So we looked at it and we thought, how can we? What can we do?
Wasn't it?
Oh, absolutely. Especially those first few months. I mean, there was a company close to us. I won't mention the name, but they were an agency and they got about 600 clients. And going into lockdown, they were on month-to-month contracts. Going into lockdown, they had 280 of their clients serve notice on them because they just went panic, reined the spending. As it turned out, obviously, e-commerce absolutely flew, and so those fears were kind of put to one side after a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
But the idea was, we were thinking, we kind of predict, we've done very well through Fluker Design at kind of predicting how things would kind of come to pass.
Yeah.
So we thought, actually, there's going to be a bit of interruption. As long as they're not going to ban people from a warehouse, then e-commerce is going to absolutely fly. So we were saying to ourselves, how can we provide the evidence for this? So what we did was we took our clients, anonymized all the data and everything that we've got to do with transactions and user behavior, and we made it public facing and free to all users. So we've had a few iterations of it, and then what we're doing is we're actually rebranding it as, and again, this is where Chairman comes in with marketing expertise. And he's kind of looked at it and gone, why are you growing a brand called Trend Desk when you are Salesfire?
Yeah.
So we're launching Salesfire, kind of rebadging it as Salesfire Trends, and the idea is we're just literally going to work into it and make it more and more in depth. Kind of data and information.
I can definitely see why you went separate at the start, though, because almost if you're going to launch an MVP, you don't want to. Now you can do it. You know it works.
Now it works. We can associate with it.
You can bring it into the fold. I've done that with a couple of things that we did at reviews. We did, full picture, which was a session recording and to show a return on investment for reviews.io. But now we're bringing that actually in, and it's going to be part of our core offering.
Yeah.
And I can definitely see, I think you did the right thing originally by branding it separately.
Josh in marketing will thank you for saying that.
I think
we're at loggerheads with it, so we're both right in the end, I guess.
No, I think it was the right move to do it separately. I don't think you would have had the traction of it and the users of it, because I think bringing it as a core product straight away.
It looks like it's for sale. It looks like it's a commercial grab kind of thing.
Yeah, that's correct. So I think it was a good move on that way.
What we're going to do on top of it as well is, so we're going to launch that, and what we noticed, the subscribers are incredible. So there's a level of, there's kind of your SME that we work with as Salesfire, but the people signing up to get insights on e-commerce.
Mostly.
Samsung, Aston Martin, people like that. They've
it's big brands signing.
Big brands. Brands where, admittedly, at this time, we've, like in terms of our Salesfire offering, it's not what we're targeting. It's not what we're targeting right now. So, but it's interesting. It's interesting to see these companies and these people from these companies that are signing up all the same. So the idea is we're going to back it up as well we're going old school with this as well, because we find a lot of the old school marketing tends to work. It's almost people go for what's modern and they leave behind what's what's
throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Yeah, what used to work. So we're basically sending out, there's about 30,000 essentially newspapers we're going to send out in the post in January, end of January. So every e-commerce manager, CEO, FD, we're going to push out this trends magazine. So the idea is no sales pitch behind it, really. It's just, obviously it helps in terms of the brand.
It's brand awareness.
Yeah, and then get people to collaborate with us, partners to collaborate with us in providing the content.
Yeah.
And basically just providing this insights, this data for people. So that's one of our big plans.
Yeah, I like it. The Trojan horse.
That's it.
Get people to like your brand. It's that soft seller, and I think that works. I think that works massively, giving them the information up front.
And that's where funding's come in, really, because I think previously to justify that big an operation, left field from what we typically do, I think that's where we can do that with a lot more confidence.
What you're talking about there is very similar to like what HubSpot did. They started building out a lot of free tools that a lot of people were using.
Yeah.
And then they charged 1% of those people for their key offering. And obviously now it's changed, but they charge a lot more than 1% now. But that was what they were doing. They were doing these, a free CRM, a free dialer. They were doing all these tools that were absolutely free and were just there to get their brand out.
Yeah.
And I love that you're doing that with Trendesk, because I think that's a great product. I think, have you seen SimilarWeb? Have you ever seen SimilarWeb?
Yeah.
And I think Trendesk is a bit like that. It could almost be a bit like that, where at a product level, that data could be used. So the biggest buyer of SimilarWeb is hedge funds.
Yep.
So they buy the data, the anonymous data, and they say, well, Nike's had a good month because it's had this many searches and it's done this and that.
Yeah.
And they invest loads of money into Nike. Or they short Nike if they look at the sales. And I think maybe Trendesk could go out and doing reports for the hedge funds in that way.
Yeah, there's certainly value in it. I mean, there always has been. You look at where Facebook's grown, any of these huge businesses, the biggest companies in the world are the data businesses, essentially.
Knowledge is power.
Yeah.
And you've got it. You've got it through the solution that you're actually bringing capital from, which is your paid SaaS solution. So I always ask this towards the end of an interview, which is like, what are you reading? What's influencing you? Are you reading a newsletter? Are you into a podcast at the minute? Or are you reading a book? What is it? What have you been learning from recently?
Well, I think from the last time we talked, I think you guilt-tripped me into reading a bit more. I think the current one I've got is and it's so cliched even saying it, I'm cringing, but the Steve Jobs autobiography.
Brilliant.
And it's interesting because he was deeply flawed.
Deeply flawed.
I've always got this kind of thought process whereby there's got to be an idiot in charge of some of the huge, trillion-dollar companies or whatever, where they've essentially won the Euro Millions twice in a row, kind of thing, to end up in that position where they're at. And I wouldn't say it's to that extent, but there's certainly, I don't think you can get away with it nowadays. I love that
autobiography. I've read the Steve Jobs autobiography, several versions of the autobiography a couple of times. And I love the story. I love that he was the biggest shareholder in Pixar, and then when Disney
that was incredible with Pixar.
When Disney bought Pixar, and he was the biggest shareholder in Disney then.
Yeah, it's absolutely incredible. But there's a certain charm, I think, about that kind of. I don't know whether it can exist anymore. Is that kind of garage business? Like you go in your garage and you pull things together and physically pull together a computer. You can do that now. It's not, it's not.
I don't know.
It's not possible, but I
think that's going to change. I still think that a small team of 5 people sitting and concentrating and focusing on one problem can fight a company of 500 people.
Yes. Yeah.
I still think that's there.
Yeah.
Can they get to the scale?
I think they do still do it in software.
Yeah.
I think
if
you're producing something physical, I think it's quite difficult. Dyson was the last one of note, I guess, that'd be in the 90s, I think, something like that. But in terms of software, my fear for the next generation, really, talking in a very world-wise way here, but is that fades out. In that, the big money companies can
I know what you're saying. I 100% agree with you. It's going to be harder, but I think it can still be done. So I'll give you one person who I've been following and speaking to quite a bit recently, and it's a client of Reviews.io, a guy called Chris Mead. Him and his brother have invented a whole new sport. Right, and I thought, you would have thought, has anybody invented a sport in the last few years? No. In the last decade, no. And these guys are CrossNet, and they've invented a whole new sport. They've invented it from their apartment in Miami. Well, we're going to do this sport. What's it going to be? Well, we'll take a badminton and a volleyball net and we'll put it on a cross. And they've done the rules, and now it's absolutely fine. Literally, you go to any beach in America, there's 10 cross nets being used.
That's incredible.
So, don't get me wrong. I think it's harder and happening less often, but I think it still can happen with a small team that focuses on a product, focuses on a problem or an idea for a long time.
Yeah.
And look at, we say Dyson, but you look at what Elon Musk has done with, Tesla. He went in Tesla when it was, he didn't invent Tesla. He wasn't the first founder. He came in,
broken into a multi-billion-dollar market.
Yeah, he came into Tesla when he as an investor originally, and actually ended up becoming the CEO and taking it from this 20 people team to what it is now. But I think you can still do it. I think that I think the funding is there, but if you've got that great idea now.
Yeah.
But can you hold on to it like Steve Jobs did? Probably not.
Yeah.
These businesses are a wild horse who's running away and you're trying to hold on. I had that with Reviews, I felt like, was I ready for this next stage almost? They were offering us a large amount of capital to get out of the way almost.
Yeah. It's like levels in a computer game. That's the way I always see it, is that you're going to do your Series A, move towards your Series B, and you're going to go through several levels. Yeah. And it's going to get more difficult.
Every time. I mean, I learned a lot on our journey. And I'm glad we got the outcome that we did. And I'm really excited for what's going to happen for next for Reviews.io. And I'm excited for what's going to happen next for Salesfire.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I do like that, though, that recommendation. I will put a link in the description and everywhere to that Steve Jobs book. No, thanks for coming on. Do really, really appreciate everything you do, everything you post. I think you're really positive voice in the tech industry, especially in the UK. And we've been friends for a long time, so it's really good to see the company grow from what it originally was. No, thank you so much.
Cheers.
If you have any questions for Rich, Rich is a very, vocal person, I suppose, on LinkedIn. He posts a lot, so as do I. Follow Rich on LinkedIn, and if you've got any questions, DM him. Thank you very much.